Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining today's webinar on Live from the Power Platform Conference, where we're very excited to be recapping today's keynote presentation that was presented by Charles Lamanna. So before we get started, I do want to go through a couple housekeeping items in terms of how today's webinar is going to work. First and foremost here, you'll notice that this is not a one-to-one event. Rather, this is being made available to multiple Microsoft customers. So what does that mean for you? Things like your name, your email, your avatar could be visible to other people within the webinar. If you are uncomfortable with this, totally understandable. Feel free to drop now and contact your business application specialist to get a follow-up from today's session. Next here, today's webinar is being recorded. So if you do want to review this at a later time or share with colleagues, you'll absolutely be able to do that. Again, also reach out to your business application sales specialist who can get you the link to the recording for today. And then lastly here, in terms of housekeeping, you'll probably notice your microphone, your video, your chat is all disabled. So you're probably wondering, how in the heck am I going to ask questions today? Well, I want to draw your attention to your top navigation where you have Q&A in the Teams webinar. We're going to be leveraging Q&A where we have a live panel who's around answering questions as they come in. So that being said, housekeeping items out of the way, you see here that I have a large panel of folks who are going to be chatting with us today, and we'll go through a quick round of introductions with everybody. And what I want to ask of each one of you is to provide your name, your city, state, location, and your favorite component of the Power Platform. So if I were to start, my name is Anthony, based in Chicago, Illinois, and my favorite component of the Power Platform is Power Apps, and specifically Canvas apps. So KG, over to you.
All right, my name is Kaustubh Giri, also known as KG, whatever is easier. I am from Austin, Texas. My favorite component within Power Automate is Do Until. It basically allows you to use one flow to run into a loop without having to run multiple instances. That kind of helps finish the job without having to trigger multiple instances.
Excellent. Tom?
And I'm Tom Higginbotham from Livonia, Michigan, outside of Detroit. And my favorite thing about the Power Platform is Dataverse, and specifically Synapse Link, where it can now not only tie into Azure Synapse, but it can also now tie into Fabric. And we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Awesome. The three of us here are live at the Power Platform Conference in Las Vegas. We also have two team members who are joining us remotely, and we'll start with you, Josiah.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Josiah Hetty. I'm a technical specialist based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. When it comes to Power Platform, it's tough to point one particular thing out, but if I had to, Power Virtual Agents. As someone who's built bots in multiple systems, it is the fastest way that I've been able to get one in a state where I'm not ashamed of 90% of the dialogue. So incredibly excited to talk about that a little bit more later today as well.
Awesome. And last but not least, Eno.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Eno Shnopani. I live in Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area here. My favorite Power Platform component is Power Pages. I really like how quickly users are able to spin up website, add themes, add powerful capabilities of Dataverse within Power Pages. So really excited to share some of the new updates from the conference.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for the introductions here. So let's, without further ado, jump into recapping the keynote from this morning led by Charles Lamanna. And quite a bit to share here, right? We heard a lot of information, but wanted to start with actually talking about some of the numbers that were shared at the beginning of the Power Platform conference keynote here, where it's just outstanding in terms of the sheer volume of people who are using and developing in the Power Platform today. Looking back at some of the numbers that were shared this morning, things like 126,000 organizations that are leveraging Power Platform today. Of those 126,000 organizations, that includes 97% of Fortune 500 companies, which was just awesome to hear. Also seeing 5.2 million monthly active community members in the Power Platform. This is a community event, the Power Platform Conference. So to hear that and see the sheer volume of people that are at this conference was just awesome to see. And millions of monthly active builders within the Power Platform that are all supporting their communities as well, with hundreds of local community groups that are out there within the community across the country, across the globe, that are enabling their people and their communities to do more within the Power Platform. So pretty cool numbers that we heard with that today. So just curious with the group here, maybe round robin, if anyone has thoughts, what are your guys' thoughts around when you hear those numbers, kind of where we came from with the Power Platform some 5 to 7 years ago during its inception to what we're seeing now? What are your initial thoughts when you hear those numbers?
Want to go first, Tom?
Yeah, I got to tell you, it is really exciting to especially coming into Microsoft when all of this business app and the business applications platform, now known as Power Platform, kind of first got started, and just to see the size, sheer size of attendees at the event, as well as participants in the community, is just pretty cool to really see this. So I was real impressed with that.
True. For me, personally, I think this is a great achievement, not just for us, but also for our customers. Because, month over month, as you see, the numbers are in millions. If I heard it correctly, I think we have crossed or touched 10 million monthly active users using Power Platform, which is a high number. But the most important, or the underlining factor over here, is it is empowering everybody. And that is the key functionality of this platform. And it's just not one single product. It's a huge platform providing multiple things, such as Dataverse. We talked about Power Automate. You talked about Power Apps, Power Pages, mentioned. And then obviously PVA. PVA is rocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I mean, from just the overall excitement of adoption, KG alluded to it, but I'm going to double tap on it. It has been remarkable to see just in the last year how quickly we went from, oh, this really does solve all my use cases, to, wow, it solves it. And I took how long to create this? It's been remarkable to see how quickly we can hit value props from starting with an idea on bots to be able to go live, or, hey, I've got an idea that I wrote down on, a piece of paper. I uploaded it. Now I've got a full blown app. So the last year has been remarkable to see how quickly we can get that value from the product. That honestly is just still mind-blowing, and I work with it every day. So from my perspective, that has been quite exciting.
Awesome.
And just to add to it, Josiah, it's not just you. Everybody here, there,
Yes.
and watching, people who are watching, they use it too.
That's right. Yep. And we are seeing just outstanding energy at this conference as well. Tom, KG, this is your first Power Platform conference this year.
Sure.
Share a little bit about just the energy of the conference, of the attendees, just all the excitement that you're seeing from everyone.
You want to go first again?
Sure. So I think that what was really cool was how Charles really engaged the audience and really emphasized community, worldwide community that this platform is built for, and who are participating in this. I've been to a lot of Microsoft conferences, and that message to me really rang solid.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. The message that I got from overall the keynote and everything that I saw in person is basically there is a huge investment in not just keeping the product alive, but it is enhancing the product. So, for example, today you saw Copilot being discussed as to how it can actually empower everybody. Like Josiah mentioned, it takes hardly any minutes to create an application, which would have taken days, if not weeks, to actually sit together and start developing the application, or even the flow, the Power Automate. Even explaining the Power Automate logic, it could have taken so much time, but now it basically is so easy now.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it more.
Yeah. Yeah. With that said, appreciate you both sharing, and excited to have you here at your first Power Platform conference, year 2, and the attendance has grown exponentially, and we got to see it today in the keynote. It was in the arena here at the MGM Grand. Charles Lamanna was up there like a rock star on his big stage and presented quite a bit of information about the future of Power Platform. And when we start getting into product here, I was joking with the guys earlier, I'm going to call this section Copilot, 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 because it really was the emphasis of everything that we saw around advancements within the Power Platform and a couple different announcements that we heard today. So that being said, folks, let's jump into the product stuff that we heard today. And there were 4 major areas with new announcements that were covered. It was Power Apps, it was Power Automate, it was process mining, and it was also Power Pages. So we're going to start off with Power Apps. That was the first demonstration that they showed this morning. And we saw some really cool advancements with Power Apps Copilot, in particular with an application that we saw that was designed by Toyota. Josiah, would love to hear your thoughts on some of the things that were announced around Power Apps Copilot today, and we can delve into that a bit deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. So to really kind of ground us on some exciting new features, first, a quick kind of glance back. Whenever Power Apps first kind of allowed for creating an app based on data, I thought, oh, this is pretty awesome. Like, I'm a big fan of this, but it could use a little bit of love. And that's what it's got this released. So a few things. First, you could start from an upload of data. So we can take a export from any of our systems and create a full new application just based on the CSV that we have in place. This allows us to start with that app and then make adjustments from there. However, sometimes we don't have a starting point of, hey, I've already got this data, let me just create an app around it. Sometimes we start with a thought, an idea, and using natural language, we can easily describe what we're looking for, and the new Copilot experience allows our makers to have apps within a few minutes just based on a description. So, hey, I'd love to create an app that helps me track when my customers are having issues via ticket. And so along that, as we're experiencing this more robust, more rich environment within that experience, we can start providing that to our end users. Copilot within the controls of Power App will soon allow for you to be able to expose that level of excitement using natural language to our end users. So they can describe what type of information they're looking for. And in the past, we may have had to create a search bar with some filters on it and hope that I got their use case in mind. Now they can describe what they're looking for, and it will pull back in information in a way that's super digestible. Hey, how many cases have I had in the last week? Hey, just a heads up, you've had 32, and we're seeing this commonality. It really allows us to hit that value much, much faster and really just adopt apps in ways that we've not been able to do in the past, and extend what we can cover with the last feature around bringing the generative answers that Power Virtual Agents has been utilizing for the last few months, which allow you to point your application at a website to garner information and bring that back in a summarized version to your customers. What does that all mean? All of the massive amounts of data that we have that can be tricky to tap into, we can now leverage Copilot to bring that to the front for our customers where it makes the most sense with no code necessary. We just plug in a URL and they're off to the races, tapping into the knowledge articles that we've been building for years, or off of the sites we've been building for years, and being able to utilize that where it makes the most sense. Those are the ones I'm most excited for. And of course, with Power Virtual Agents, generative answers, always a big fan of that. So maybe a little biased, but those are the ones I wanted to make sure we called out, especially for Power Apps.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Josiah. Yeah, really some amazing advancements that we're seeing with Copilot and describing what you need to design it. Question for the group here, with the customers that you're working with, what do you think this Copilot experience does for your customers' development process today? Maybe compared to the way that they've traditionally designed apps, either the traditional coding way or the kind of V1 of the Power Apps way of doing a lot of drag and drop configuration. What do you think that this new Copilot building experience does for app development for your customers?
So if I may go first, what I noticed is during the session, how it was described so easily. Try to get a particular color, get a theme, and Copilot actually took that information, brought that information over from public website and created a similar looking website in under 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it was not perfect. It doesn't have to be, but at least it got everybody started to a point where you can take that information, which you would have otherwise spent more than a day for sure, but that was done in under 5 to 10 minutes. And that was super cool. So to answer your question, I think Copilot is going to make any and every developer, whether it is a citizen or a pro, do a lot work in less time. And that was key.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. So it is going to help all the customers overall.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a slide that Charles Lamanna showed about where Power Platform fits in the spectrum of your business stakeholders. If you recall, at one end of the spectrum, it was your professional developers. At the other end were the folks that, maybe not super technically savvy, but know how to run a computer, know how to run a mobile device. And for forever, since its inception, Power Platform has kind of found its place in the middle of those two groups. And there was a visualization he showed that with Copilot and the introduction of what you just shared, Josiah, with Power Apps, that spectrum on the one side of the less technically savvy folks, Power Platform moved even as far left as possible to the less technical savvy, who, again, to your point, Josiah, can now just use natural language to describe to their Copilot what they want this app to do. So Power Platform is now empowering even more people and more business stakeholders to do application development.
Yeah, and if I can, I will say I think the Copilot just allows democratization of a lot of technology that in the past, it really did take a whole team to be able to deliver. It's kind of the Power Platform motto. AI Builder helped democratize AI models in the past. We're helping to democratize that build process. It's really just becoming more and more accessible and no longer takes an entire team to be able to start an MVP app. It just takes you and a few words into the Copilot and a little bit of time and you're ready to go. I think that's been the most exciting thing to see is how quickly you can get value out of any application or even idea that you have and get it into a really solid state. So,
yeah,
That's true.
awesome. All right, next up on our list here, we heard a bit about Power Pages in particular. We saw a really cool example from T-Mobile, a demonstration of a Power Page being created using the new Copilot creation control. And back to that idea of democratizing the ability for everybody to create a website. I remember just 7-10 years ago, if you wanted to create a website, you better have some web development background and some pro coding experience because it's not that easy. So Power Pages has come quite a long way with these new next generation AI tools. So Eno, I'll pass it over to you as you mentioned, your favorite component of the Power Platform to take us through a couple of the new announcements for Power Pages and the Copilot control within that tool set.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Yeah, it was very exciting to see some of the recent release within Power Pages. So, when earlier, right, a few months ago, when you create a Power Pages, you have to pretty much create the layout, right, and go to the other website you want to replicate, find the color they are using, find the images sources and stuff like that. Basically, try to grab their theme based on, like trial and error, right? You don't have a lot of tools. But now with the recent release, you are able to describe the kind of website you want. You can type in natural language what kind of website you want, very similar to Power Apps we have seen. And then you are furthermore able to also bring the layout and themes of certain website, right? So for example, I want to create a website that looks like T-Mobile. I can just describe it. It will be able to create a replica or very similar website that has same colors, same themes as T-Mobile for me, just by typing the prompt, right? So the power of AI is going to help us there. Furthermore, with Copilot, you are able to create tables, again, just by describing, right? So for example, you can say, hey, I want a table that can capture cases that are created online, right? So you can create a table just by describing that. Furthermore, you are also able to create form, again, by description based on the prompts, and also multi-step form. So multi-step form earlier was a little bit more configurable based, right? But now you can just describe it, and based on the prompt, you are able to create multi-step form, which I think is which shows like how far our AI is advancing with this new feature for multi-step form. And similarly, we had this capability of being able to describe within VS Code, right, for certain functions that you want to be able to create. And now that has been extended to Power Pages as well. So if you're using Power Pages for creating websites, most of the things you can accomplish there. But if you need to utilize the programmatic aspect of Power Pages with VS Code, now it's a lot more easier to extend that. And within VS Code as well, you can just use natural language to just describe some of the key functionalities that you want to achieve. And you are able to do that now with Power Pages as well. And furthermore, we have made the process of adding PVA bot easier within Power Pages in this release. So overall, yeah, I'm very excited, and I look forward to seeing customers build a more advanced website within Power Pages without leveraging a lot of code. So really excited for this.
I got to tell you, I was very impressed with VS Code, where they showcased how they simply described create a condition or validation within the form for email address, and it wrote the code.
Yeah, that you're talking the Copilot control inside VS Code. So now we've got Power Pages and VS Code integrated together, and they each have their own Copilot experience to actually write lines of code. Back to what we were talking about earlier, the Power Platform. For the longest time, it was enabling citizen developers and your everyday business users to go out there and create applications. And now we're actually seeing a bit of this pivot here, where Power Platform can even enable professional developers to do more faster. Josiah, you've got a little bit of professional development background doing some web development. As somebody with that context and that background, what does that mean for you? What does that mean from a professional developer background to have tools like Copilot to use your natural language to describe stuff without just going straight to the point of coding right away?
I think the common theme we're seeing here is democratization of these features. So whenever it used to come to development, I loved creating things that really pushed me. Don't get me wrong, creating regex to do validation on a field, is always a fun time, but usually it was me looking at documentation to make sure I had the syntax right. So being able to take Copilot, give a description of what I'm looking for, and it go through the fun of diving into documentation for me allows me to really focus on what was really exciting for me. Same thing with the Power Virtual Agents. Within Power Pages being a one-click activation, in the past, it was taking a chunk of code, putting it into the website, hoping it works correctly. It's really just that ability to take tasks that in the past really were an uphill battle at times where I forgot an asterisk. Whoops, got to redo this regex. And really allows me to focus in on things that I'm much more excited about. So it's the old, automate everything, do what you love and automate the rest. I think that has been the most exciting thing to see these copilots and the copilots working with other copilots, which is quite exciting. Those are the things that I've been quite excited to see this event.
To Josiah's point, I remembered there was one comment while there was a presentation that was happening, and it was like, to just find one comma that was missing in the code, it could take 30 minutes or more.
Yes.
With Copilot, a couple seconds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Right. Thank you so much for sharing, about some of those announcements, Josiah, and for your perspective from the pro dev background there. And in spirit of what I called our section here of Copilot, of course, we have some really exciting announcements, Tom, for Power Automate. So I'd have to say before we jump in here, and you guys would probably agree that this was the most wild the crowd got in that arena was when we were talking about Power Automate. Some very cool announcements that had people, some even standing ovation, cheering. So Tom, tell us a little bit about some of the announcements we heard around Power Automate today.
Yeah, so it was a great use case where they focused on nationwide insurance that actually provides a insurance policy for pets. And of course, the video feeds that they were showing was of pets, and maybe that's what got the audience excited, was just the cool pets. But besides that, it was, I think the what really got them excited was when they started to use Copilot and asked it to write she just posed a scenario in the Copilot text, and nationwide in their use case, they capture these policies in a SharePoint list, and they wanted to provide a process to have these policies reviewed, or when a claim is filed, to have basically a lookup of these policies and the process that kicks off as a result of that, informs the email, etc. So all of that in just a few seconds generated this pretty elaborate flow in a brand new flow designer. Actually, the new Power Automate, I think version 3 designer that has been in preview for a while, but the reaction of the crowd, many probably had not adopted it or started using the preview yet. So the layout of it was very nice, very elegant, and especially the expression builder was much more intuitive because it brought a full pane off to the left that you could work with that and work with the various elements in the flow as those were going through. And I think the other really neat thing that also got folks excited, and it really tied into a breakfast meeting that I had with a customer this morning before the keynote, who described to me some of the challenges that they were having with Power Platform adoption in their organization, and in particular his challenge with trying to kind of corral in a lot of these flows that have been built either by folks that aren't with the organization any longer, or they were built and left alone for a while, and he's having to come in and look at these and figure out what these flows are doing. And so sure enough, one of the things that this new Copilot does is that you can load up a flow and ask Copilot, what's this flow doing? And it kicks out a full description and basically a documentation of what that flow does, which was just really, really neat.
Yeah, really awesome announcements. That one in particular was really cool. The ability for Copilot to tell you what that flow is. We all know, we all have that one Power Automate designer buddy who they don't title their steps, or they don't label them, right? So you've got condition 1, condition 2, condition 3, compose 1, 2, 3. You're going, what in the world is this?
And it's not real easy to embed, documentation or description right within those flows either in the prior version of the designer. So that makes that capability much stronger too. So
yeah, and this was one actually as well that it was the first announcement that we've heard with Power Automate Copilot and the new user interface that they are generally available from Microsoft. Copilot in particular has been in preview up until this point. We heard as well Power Automate is moving to generally available. And for folks that are not familiar, when some of these features, functionalities are in a preview state, they're really just to get our customer feedback, to understand, is this a valuable feature set? Do you see yourself adopting this? Could you provide feedback back to us? They're unsupported at the time because they're in preview, but when they're in that public preview stage, more often than not, they're making it to generally available. And as of today, Power Automate Copilot and the new designer interface are GA, our acronym we use for generally available, which another big crowd applause that we heard for that one too. So, all right, thank you so much, Tom. Let's move into to process mining. That was the last demonstration that we saw today around process mining, and not only the ability to understand at a holistic level what's going on with your business users' processes and how to identify some bottlenecks, but again, back in the theme of our conversation today, Copilot. We've got some pretty great Copilot integrations with process mining. KG, can you share a little bit about what we heard today?
Sure, absolutely. So as Tom was talking about, what Lam showed today was a claims process that she had designed using Copilot. What happened is during that session, the person who came after that, basically she went through a mining step where all the events were captured from process. Now there are different ways of doing it. In this example, it was actually taken from a spreadsheet. and put into the process mining advisor and process miner, where basically it goes through the steps and analyzes the overall process and identifies where the bottlenecks are. So previously, and I came from the engineering background. I'm not a developer, but I came from support background, and I remember this. At that time, we used to actually literally sit and watch somebody do from the back, and we just used to look at their life in a day, or as somebody doing the process. But now with process mining, it actually gives us abilities of doing different captures. One is an event capture, which you can process out of the application, and it does not have to be Microsoft application. It could be any application that can generate events, and we can import that to get a holistic view of what exactly the process flow looks like. The other option is task mining, where we can actually install an application on their desktop, and we can start monitoring them. And when we monitor those events, we can actually convert the video into events. It's that simple. And then we can understand what the bottlenecks are. So the example that Tom gave a couple minutes ago, in that the process, the bottleneck that Copilot was able to identify was when it was specifically looking for the policy. Now, what was happening is it was taking a lot of time, and it was basically rewriting that process and going back to that process multiple times. So when Copilot suggested that you could do a better job at streamlining the process, it also gave an option to provide a solution. And then when you clicked on solution, it rewrote the Power Automate and wrote a cleaner, better, and a straightforward Power Automate, reducing the step. And then, as we saw in that session, we saw the graph of total time taken to process a claim came down, which means it got better. It was more productive. And obviously that means organization is happy, customers are happy, less expenditure, and obviously everybody is productive. So
Yeah.
that's something very, very impressive.
Well, and the key with something like that too is that a lot of these process mining systems will do a good job of providing the dashboard and the analytics and the insight into what is wrong, and that's where it stops. We're now with Copilot helping build a solution for that problem.
Yeah. That what you were talking about, where it made a recommendation, and to your point, Tom, it identified the bottlenecks first, but what really differentiates us is building out the solution to fix it. It had in that Copilot, we think you should create a Power App that does this, and we think you should create a flow that does this. And to KG's point, she pressed Power App, it went over to the Power App Maker portal and actually filled out the Describe It to Design It Power App based on what it identified in that process mining tool, which I thought was so cool, really, to just see these tools now integrating pretty seamlessly together as well. So
I want to say one thing, and this is not my quote, but it's not autopilot, it's co-pilot.
Yes.
So we need to always keep that in mind. It can't do everything, but it will do a lot than anybody could think of. And the second one is, if you can describe it, power can power it. That's mine.
yeah, I like that. Charles used something similar in one slide where, if you recall, he said low code plus AI plus everyone. It's a combination of the three together that, again, are really just empowering people to do more with the Power Platform. So, yeah, excellent. And so that was our product announcements that we had for today around those four major areas. And again, all things Copilot. Where the keynote wrapped up, we talked a little bit about upskilling our community members as well. Now, around this year, last time, Josiah, you were out at the conference, you and I were there. We introduced a program called the Power Up program, and it was essentially just designed, it was an education tool to upskill people who were looking to make career changes into Power Platform roles or in their company or different just career paths in general. We got some numbers around that one in particular, where over 22,000 learners went through that Power Up program since its inception last year. Yes, definitely a good applause to our community for that. So 22,000 learners from 180 plus countries went through that program. and they've all graduated. A number of them are here, and they're well on their way. We heard probably, 10 different stories of people who went through this program and now are well on their path, either in a career with Power Platform or on the way to get to that point now. It sounded like one of the major pieces of feedback we got from the program originally was that it was set up for solo learners, for just individuals who wanted to get upskilled on the Power Platform, but our customers had a lot of groups out there and teams that said, we'd like to do this almost as a group effort. Think about, we see it all the time with our customers. You guys can attest to it. They build out these really great communities internally within the company of power champions, and finance is doing great work, and IT is doing great work. Well, now we've introduced or announced at this year's conference that we are taking that step further within the Power Up program to open it up to Power Up program for groups, which is intended to give more of that group feel, bring a group of people in through that Power Up program. And the group of you together goes through this learning plan, this platform here to go through that graduation process and upskill you in a way that gets you ready for a long and fruitful career in the Power Platform, such as we have all had over the last number of years here. So that was the last major announcement that we had coming out of there. So what I wanted to do with a few minutes we had left here is just do a quick round robin with the group here on kind of just some closing remarks, talking about additional things you might be excited for, what you're looking forward to testing. I know there's a number of things that I'm looking forward to going back home here from Vegas and checking those things out, or just thoughts on the conference in general. So we're going to start it off, Eno. I'll call out on you to just share kind of your closing remarks and thoughts on everything we've talked about here today, or just in general on the conference.
Yeah, I think, earlier, right, when we first released Copilot, it was very get started kind of scenario for a lot of things, right? But this advancement really helps me, a lot actually, not only for building myself, even when I'm having conversation with customers, right? Now we can talk a little bit more about depth and advancement within AI. And as well as I'm excited that I think we have the new version of GPT that is being used, right, from this release on. So the AI will be able to understand the prompt more clearly. So I just want to see how advanced it can go, right? So I'll be typing a lot of prompt and see where it fails or till where it can understand me properly. So that's what I'm excited for.
Awesome. Josiah, over to you. Some closing remarks.
At this point, everyone's just going to remember me as democratization, but I think that's really the key. It goes all the way from being able to bring you into a cohort of fellow learners, being able to have those exams now open book to get you upskilled and ready to take on the challenge of Power Platform, that Copilot's ready to help you not only deliver apps, but that deliver apps in ways that we haven't been able to do in the past incredibly quickly. We can cover from inefficient processes and deliver great experiences to drive that customer overall satisfaction, or being able to deliver additional content to that end user without needing to create a lot of customizations. It's remarkable to see from where a maker can start all the way to the deliverables of the end user, how easy and how quick it can all be. And I think that's what I'm most excited about, is how we can take a new technology and effectively bring any person into the platform and deliver the best experiences for any customer out there. That's what I'm excited for.
Great. Tom, how about you?
Well, there's some additional announcements coming here later this week around what's happening with Fabric, and specifically Fabric integration with Dataverse. And I think for the whole data estate, and to get enterprise data into one place within your tenant so that it's secured is really key to all of this, because now once you have that data secured in your tenant, you can unleash some of these great AI capabilities in that secured, controlled way, so that it's not going outside of your tenant and your environment to be used for training any large language models. And it's just some great capabilities coming there just from the Power Platform as well as Fabric perspective and integrating with that.
Excellent. KG.
I don't know how I can top this with everybody talking about their expectations or experiences, but I think my message is simply this: try it, and you'll believe it.
Yes.
Until you try it, you won't know it. And if you have already tried it, you'll see the enhancements, and it's going to be very, very exciting as we go further. That's it. I don't have anything else.
Perfect. I will share my last few remarks here before we close things out in just saying that we've gained a wealth of knowledge here at this conference, and we continue to. It's just wrapped up with the keynote. We're delivering this webinar, still here for a few more days, and the three of us plan on attending a number of sessions. I know Josiah and Eno are keeping up to date with everything that's going on virtually for this conference here, but we're gaining a wealth of knowledge, and we're committed to sharing that with you, our customers. So, please don't hesitate. Reach out to your business application sales executive, to one of us directly. We're going to be getting a lot more information as we join more of these sessions. Typically, the way this works is, at least from the way it did last year, was Keynote made the big announcements, and then all the sessions following went much more in depth with what to expect, kind of the technical underpinnings of everything. And we're committed again to sharing that back with all of our customers. So let's set up some time. Let's chat when we all get back from the conference here, delve in on some of these topics a little bit further. But with that said, we are just so grateful and thankful for everybody for joining our webinar here today. Hopefully for those that aren't here live in Vegas at the conference, you got to enjoy a little bit of the excitement from the keynote. We tried to get this information out to everybody as quick as possible here with a fast turnaround, and in general, I'm sure you can sense the excitement from us, and we sense the excitement from the thousands of community members that are here at the Power Platform Conference in Las Vegas this year. So that said, we hope to see everybody at the next conference next year. Hopefully we get an announcement shortly here on when and where that will be. I'm sure it will be larger than it is this year as it's continuing to evolve. But again, next steps, try it out, get familiar with us, this stuff, set up some time with a sales executive, with us, your technology specialists, and happy to delve in on any of these topics that we discussed today. So that said, thanks everybody. Take care.